My name is George Chen. I am a partner at the law firm of Bryan Cave, resident in our Phoenix office, Phoenix, Arizona. And I am also the president of the National Asian Pacific American Bar Association, or we refer to ourselves as NPABA, the acronym NPABA, and we represent the interests of 40,000 Asian Pacific American lawyers, judges, law school professors, and law students all across the country. I'll talk a little bit more about NPABA itself and some of the things that we do with a variety of communities of color. But I thought first I would like to thank Evangeline for inviting me here to speak at this conference, and thank all of you for your interest in participating today. I thought I would provide a little bit of information about my own background, about how I got started in the career of law, talk a little bit about NPABA, and then talk a little bit about diversity in the legal profession, which is a large focus of NPABA. So before I begin, let me take a quick survey of everyone in the audience here. By a quick show of hands, how many of you have no lawyers in your immediate family? No lawyers in your family, right? Almost everyone here. No lawyers in your family, and no lawyers is like close family friends either, right? Still most of you. Okay. So I think that's something that many of us here have in common, and certainly that's something that I started with. So my parents came to this country as immigrants from China and from Taiwan. They came here with very little. They came here to start a better life for themselves, for their family. And I grew up on the East Coast here in Pennsylvania, near Philadelphia. And there were, frankly, in my community, not that many Asians or Asian Pacific Americans. I went to college, and as I was talking a little bit earlier this morning with Arun, it was a little bit of a culture shock for me as I went to college, and there was about 50% Asian. So I was not used to that from my high school, and but it was a good experience, and it's something that I really treasured, and something that I took with me for the rest of my life. So as you heard earlier, I majored in engineering, electrical engineering, and I moved to Phoenix, Arizona, which is where I still live today, to work for Motorola as an engineer. So the career of law was not something that I had originally planned to do. I'd worked for Motorola as an engineer for about 4 years, and I actually enjoyed the job. It was challenging, I enjoyed the work environment, I enjoyed the people that I worked with, but when I would wake up in the morning, I would feel that something was missing. There was something that, what I was doing was fine, but I was sort of just going through the motions. And it wasn't something that I was very passionate about. And so ultimately I realized, as I was in my early 20s or mid-20s by then, I was missing that sort of passion, that feeling that I wanted to be very excited about going to work every day. So I looked around and ultimately decided that I wanted to leave the field of engineering and pursue a career in law. And I still remember this conversation to this day. I'm fairly close with my parents, and I called my parents, who at the time were still living in Pennsylvania, and I talked to my dad, and I said, "Dad, I think I want to quit my job. I think I want to change careers. I want to go back to school." And there's this awkward silence on the phone, right? I mean, to me, it seemed like I was waiting for a response, right? I mean, I wanted approval from my parents just like anyone else, and what seemed like 30 minutes of silence was probably only 10 seconds. My father responds, "Why do you want to do that?" Right? We had no lawyers in our family. We didn't really know any lawyers, didn't interact with any lawyers, so this is something very, very foreign, very different. I'm happy to say that my parents are fully supportive of my career now, many years later, 20 years later. But at the time, it was very different, right? It was a big change, and even to this day, right? I have a lot of relatives. I have 20 aunts and uncles, almost twice as many cousins. No one's a lawyer. I'm the only one. I'm like the black sheep in the family, right? But I will say that having gone to law school, having made that change in my career, was the best thing that I did, I think, for myself. It is something that I do have a passion for. It is something that I can wake up every morning and say, wow, this is fantastic, right? I get to do something that I really love. And for me, it was a very good decision in retrospect. At the time, I admit I was a little nervous about it. I mean, I had a good career, I had a good paying job, it was with a good company, but I just felt like there was that thing that was missing, and I'm really glad that I found it. And let me explain to you why that is. And it goes back again to my days in college when I didn't realize what I was missing in terms of that sense of community. That sense of community that I did not have when I was growing up in high school. So when I went to law school, well, let me back up a minute. In Arizona, in general, the Asian population is not very large. The Hispanic population is fairly large, being a border state with Mexico. African American community is not very large. We have a decent-sized Native American population there with several reservations. But the Asian community is not very large, and so when I had gone to law school, there were not that many Asian law students, not surprising. So I had joined ALSA, which is the Asian Law Students Association, and I was able to find some community there in law school. And one of the things that I actually really enjoyed as well is that ALSA would work with and have joint events with the other diverse student organizations. So with BALSA, the Black Law Students Association, with CALSA, the Chicano Latino Law Students Association, with NALSA, the Native American Law Students Association, and a variety of others. And so we had these joint events. We had our support network through law school, and that was something that I think really helped me in law school, and one piece of advice that I would give to you for those who ultimately do decide to go to law school is that in law school, especially if you don't have family or close friends who've gone to law school and can give you that advice about how to succeed in law school, for me, one of the things that helped me do well was being able to network and make friends with people who were ahead of me in law school, right? So in law school, we call the first year law students, we call them 1Ls. Second year law students, we call them 2Ls and 3Ls, right? Law school's 3 years. So as a 1L, I was able to make friends with 2Ls and 3Ls and was able to ask them about, well, I'm taking this class from this professor. Do you know anyone who has done that? What was the final exam like? How do I do well in that class? And so with that advice that I was able to get firsthand, I think that really helped me. And one thing that's different, right, from undergrad to, or even high school to law school, is that law school, for the most part, you have 1 3-hour period to prove yourself for the entire semester. There's no homework that you're graded on during the semester. There's typically no midterm. There's one final exam, 1 3-hour, typically an essay final exam, that's typically maybe 3 hours, and that's your grade. That 1 3-hour period is your grade for the entire semester. And so it's important that you do well, right? It's important that you do well during that short period of time for that class. And so, depending on what law schools you go to, certain organizations will have old exams from professors. In my law school, the old exams were available through the copy center, and you could purchase them for like $5 and get, 5 years worth of past exams, model student answers, and things like that. So I think it's crucial to get to know the upperclassmen, so to speak. So with law school, after law school, I had joined the law firm of Brian Cave, which is the same law firm that I'm with today. And we're a very large law firm. We have 1,000 lawyers across the globe. We have 25 offices, including several offices over in Asia. But as most large law firms are today, diversity within the law firms, the large law firms, is an area that can use improvement. I think all the large law firms recognize that, and they're doing things to try to improve that. But it's a process, and it's a process that all large law firms have been working through for several years. So again, I found myself in a new environment, right, with a new employer at Bryan Cave in the Phoenix office. And again, I find myself looking for that community and that support network. And so what I did was I joined the Arizona Asian American Bar Association, or ABBA, as we call it, and eventually served as its president a number of years ago. And I used that to form my social network, my support network, and my mentors outside of my workplace. But then in Arizona, as I said, the Asian population is not that large. And by our own estimates, by our own bar association's estimates, because the state bar does not keep these records, there are probably 150 lawyers of Asian Pacific American descent. So it's not that large. So again, I was looking for something a little bit more. I had joined my law firm's diversity committee. I had chaired our firm's firm-wide Lawyers of Color affinity group. But again, it's a relatively small group within our 1,000 lawyers. So I got involved with NAPABA, which again is the National Asian Pacific American Bar Association, and started serving as a committee chair. From there, served as the Southwest Regional Governor, served as a variety of officer positions, and eventually ran in a contested election for president-elect. And now this year I'm serving as president of the organization. And one of the things that we do is we serve as the voice for our 40,000 Asian Pacific American lawyers, judges, law students, and law professors from across the country. We focus on a wide variety of areas to help our members improve their legal skills, improve their leadership skills, and we also advocate for our community. We advocate for various civil rights issues that affect the Asian Pacific American community. And those areas are actually very much in common, as I've grown to learn, with the African American community, with the Hispanic community, with the Native American community, and other diverse communities. And they include voting rights. They include diversity within the legal profession. One of the things that we focus on greatly is diversity within the federal judiciary. So within the federal judges across the United States, having more diverse judges there. We focus on immigration issues and a wide variety of other issues. And one of the things that I've really come to enjoy is not only working on those issues on behalf of the Asian Pacific American community, but also working on those issues with other national diverse bar associations. A little bit later this morning, you'll hear from Cynthia Mares, who is the president of the Hispanic National Bar Association. I have an opportunity to work with her on a variety of issues, as well as with the National Bar Association, which was started many years ago for the black lawyer community, as well as with the National Native American Bar Association. And in fact, the four of us, the four national bar associations, we got together in March, earlier this year. We met in Washington, D.C. here. We agreed on a variety of issues that we all had in common. We adopted some policy resolutions, and we went to meet with folks at the White House, folks at the Department of Justice, and our elected officials in the Senate and the House and their staffers to talk about these issues that affect all of our communities of color so that we can help to make change, make some improvements for our society as a whole. And so that's, again, some of the things that I really enjoy about my service with NDPLC. Now, you're here today because you're interested in exploring the opportunities of going to law school. And you might have heard that law school enrollment in general has been declining. Has been declining for a few years now. What you may not have heard is that while the general law student population is declining because fewer people are applying to law school, the percentage of diverse applicants is declining even faster. So there are actually fewer diverse students or diverse applicants who are applying to law school these days. And at least from my perspective, as president of NDPLC, that's not a good thing. Because as it is, we don't have enough diverse lawyers and judges in our legal profession, right? Based on the latest census projections, our country has about 36% of our population is non-Caucasian. 36%. If you take a look at what that percentage is within the legal profession, it is much, much less. Much less. And if you break it down by percentage of Asian lawyers or black lawyers and Hispanic, Native American lawyers, those statistics, all of them, are also below what the general population statistics are. So there's a lot of room for improvement. But we cannot improve unless we have people actually going to law school. So I'm very happy that to see so many of you here this morning, and certainly would encourage you to continue your investigation of whether you'd want to go to law school. And if you do end up going to law school, I would encourage you to continue to help think about ways that you can serve your community while being a lawyer. Because as lawyers, we are uniquely qualified, in my opinion, we are uniquely qualified to be able to help our communities from within the system, so to speak, right? We have that training to be able to do that. And that doesn't necessarily mean that we have to focus our entire career within the social justice system. So, for example, my area of practice, I don't practice necessarily in immigration or civil rights. Because I have an engineering background, I focus my practice in intellectual property. So I focus on patents, copyrights, trademarks, trade secrets. I work with a lot of technology companies. I work with their marketing departments to improve their brands, work with software companies, things like that. But in addition to that, I've been involved with NDPLC for quite a number of years, and so I'm able to give back to my community in a more structured way, let's say, rather than just doing it on my own. And that's something that really has, it really makes me excited every morning. And it's something that I'm very passionate about. So let me conclude by saying this. Let me first of all, again, applaud you for being here and for learning more about perhaps starting a career in the legal profession. And let me encourage you to continue your exploration. And if you happen to be in New Orleans in early November, specifically November 7th, there is another pre-law conference that's going to be there, and that's part of the pre-law conference that we have every year for the NDPLC conference. So NDPLC has its annual convention every year in a different city. This year, November 5th through 8th, it happens to be in New Orleans. And we're expecting about 1,600 or so Asian Pacific American lawyers and judges participating in that conference. But it's open, it's open to everyone. And on Saturday, November 7th, we have our annual pre-law conference at the same hotel, which is the Hilton in New Orleans. And so we'll be there. We'll have typically 50 or more law schools that will have information there. Various admissions counselors will be there. You'll hear from practicing lawyers, within a wide variety of career fields. And it's just another way to help you explore some options. So again, thank you for your time this morning, and good luck to all of you.